Tennessee Titans fans, we have some of the experts here on ESPN having a conversation about the very thing that a lot of you are having the same conversation about. Should the Tennessee Titans bench Will Levis? I see Mel Kiper here. I see Mike Greenberg here. I think they said that's Field. What's his name? I can't think of his last name. But this is them talking about should the Tennessee Titans bench Will Levis and should they draft a quarterback? Here we go again.
And then I'm actually actively afraid to read this question to Mel. Chris tweets at us, if the Titans get a top 5 pick, should they move on from Will Levis and draft another quarterback?
Well, I'm not going to go too crazy on this, but I will say this. I hear people, and I drive around and on Vinny's show with Vinny and Haney here in Baltimore, and people are just killing Will Levis. They're saying he's terrible, that quarterback. If it wasn't for him, they'd have beaten the Jets. Did you watch that Jet game, Greeny? You watched it. He made one bad play when he tried to flip the ball to Spears. Outside of that, did he not throw a ball to Burks that could have been caught down the field that was intercepted by Eccles, went through his hands? Did you see the deep throw, the deep shot to Calvin Ridley? Threw it.
I get what he's saying, and I have said this too on my podcast, on other clips on the channel. The best way I could say it is, if you're placing all of the blame on Will Levis, you are letting a lot of people off the hook, is the way I have said it. Yes, it has been a team effort to lose these games. I would say the Bears game, majority of that one I would have put on Levis, but especially against the Jets and the Packers, as Post Malone and Morgan Wallen have said, he had some help. It ain't like he can make that kind of mess all by himself. Because against the Packers, the defense was terrible. Offensive line has been atrocious.
His hands. Mm-hmm. Did you see the touchdown pass that Ridley caught between two defenders? He got
very easily could have been intercepted. That pass he's talking about very easily could have been intercepted. But okay.
Got him down, scared you at the end. Thought it was going to go into overtime, didn't you, Greeny? Okay, but he got sacked by Will McDonald, hurt him in that game. He made one bad play, one bad decision. He's only, I believe, this will be this week, his 13th start in the NFL. He started 12 games in the NFL. 12 games. I think DeAndre Hopkins said, Will's not even played a season yet in the NFL. Yet we want to run him out of the NFL.
Yeah.
It's like, so my thing is he threw a pick 6. Who doesn't? I've seen him. Burrow had 3 or 4 interceptions in a game, I think, last year, didn't he? Bottom line is they all do make mistakes, especially quarterbacks haven't played even a full season. The offensive line there isn't exactly giving him always a clean pocket. So is Will Levis perfect? No. Is any young quarterback going to be? Yeah, maybe some are a little better. Maybe C.J. Stroud, Dan Marino was early on before John Elway caught him. John Elway wasn't perfect his rookie year.
So Mel is obviously a Levis enthusiast, or I think he's more so a young quarterback enthusiast. I definitely, as Titans fans, we get caught up in we're 0-3, this sucks, he's been turning the ball over, that sucks. I do understand the argument that says you have to have patience and give guys time because he hasn't started that many games in the NFL. He's learning, he's growing. I get that. I just think that it's just scary, It's scary because what if you put a bunch of time in with this guy and he indeed is not your guy and now you've wasted, 2 years, 3 years on a guy that just never panned out, like the Titans did with Jake Locker, like the Titans did with Marcus Mariota. I get that you've got to see it through sometimes, and you've got to get, and that's why I say the Titans, for the most part, should just keep him in. I posted a video a couple days ago talking about should the Titans bench Will Levis. I know that's an ongoing conversation. Your backup is Mason Rudolph. He's going to get you 6 or 7 wins if you put him in. And then, okay, la-di-da, you don't make the playoffs, you have a worse draft pick, but what do you really have? At least with Will Levis, if you keep him in, you give him a chance to improve, and then at the end of the season, you're able to really gauge where you are. for the people wanting to bench him right now after 3 games, then you're gonna have people saying, well, they didn't give him enough time. And I agree with Mel, the offensive line has been bad. There's been times where guys like Traylon Burks could have helped make a play for him. So, I mean, there's room for that argument.
And after he had only 12 starts in the NFL, I can give you how many interceptions quarterbacks that were great in the NFL threw. I'm not saying Will Levis is going to be great. I'm saying Will Levis was getting destroyed coming into the draft, if you remember. Remember all the negativity going into the draft? After he was picked, he was just who cares? And the kid's got a ton of talent. He wants to be great. He studies, he prepares, he works. The team loves him.
What year is it now?
My thing is, Field, I'll ask you this. Who are you moving on to? Who are you moving on to at the top 5? And you're going to be really excited about Shador, maybe, but at number 1, number 2 overall, or any of these quarterbacks right now making you say, I got to have him over Will Levis right now?
Yes, they would for me right now. And maybe this is a little bit of the devil you do know versus the devil you don't know at the NFL level. But I do think that a couple of these quarterback prospects at least have a higher ceiling at the NFL level than Will. And it's 2024. A week ago, we were talking about a team moving on from the number 1 pick in the draft that they traded the entire future for after 2 weeks of his second season. I think I would be floored if the Titans have a top 5 pick this year, assuming Will Levis stays healthy for most of this year, and they don't draft a quarterback with a top 5 pick. I just think
I get what he's saying. This is the NFL in 2024, and we need to see results relatively quickly most times. Although I still think it could be a stupid move by the Panthers. But either way, if the Titans were to have a top 5 pick, I mean, I hate to even be talking about this because the season's only 3 weeks old, but I currently don't see a quarterback coming out of this upcoming draft that makes me just jump for joy. Be like, oh, yay! Can't wait. But also, I mean, if you're in a situation where you get to the end of the year and Will is not your future, and you got to go another direction, it almost makes me wonder, if you're not jumping for joy for any of these guys coming out of the draft, do you try to fix everything else and go get, a guy that is an NFL veteran, proven commodity that can just come in here and fill the role for a year? I hate to throw out the name Russell Wilson, but if Justin Fields continues on in Pittsburgh, could he be looking for a new home? I know. People are going to be like, what? But something like that. I mean, look at the Vikings with Darnold, or the Seahawks with Geno, or when the Titans had Tannehill, it was kind of that thing. Do you just put a guy like that in there for a year?
That's stating the facts of reality with the NFL in 2024. Windows are shorter for head coaches, GMs, and starting quarterbacks than ever. This is not Eli Manning or his brother Peyton stumbling out of the gates and learning from some of those mistakes and becoming a better player. That's where we are, Mel.
Adapt or die, Greedy, right? I say it all the time, Field, right? Adapt or die, and that's what it is. And I'm not ready to do that. I'll adapt before I'll die. So I'm adapting, and I'm saying, hey, if that's the case, I will say this on this podcast. What's the date, right? Circle the date, whatever the hell date is.
We're recording this on September 25th. I know because it's my daughter Nikki's birthday. Happy birthday, Nikki. Go ahead.
Happy birthday, Nikki. Now, happy birthday, Nikki. On Nikki's birthday, I'm going to say this, right? Looking at you right now. I'm never defending a young quarterback again. A young quarterback struggling. My days as a defense attorney for young quarterbacks is over.
I have thoughts on that. I mean, the issue of not just Will Levis, but young quarterbacks in general are struggling. I know C.J. Stroud, C.J. Stroud is the exception and not the rule. Jaden Daniels, to me, is the exception and not the rule. For every 20 guys, you have one maybe 2, who come in and just start playing well. But the vast majority, I mean, Josh Allen didn't immediately play well. I think the best situations are the kinds of situations that Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes had, where they can just chill for a year. Maybe the Falcons were on to something, drafting Michael Penix and just letting him sit. Because I do think most times You bring in these young quarterbacks into bad situations, teams with bad offensive lines, not great weapons, not great defenses, and then we expect them to be Joe Montana, and they are not in a position to be Joe Montana. When in many cases, these guys, it's probably in their best interest to pull a Drake May and just chill for a little bit. You know, instead of giving that instant gratification of seeing them out there, maybe it's best to just, some of these guys need to be brought in and just given time. But I know we're in the age of instant gratification, and I mean that's why I say you give Levis the rest of this season and see where you are at the end. You need to know. You just got to know. If he sucks, if he's not it, you got to know. And as Mel said, there are other issues on this team other than Will.
We finally got it.
I'm tired of yelling and screaming. I'm tired of the blood pressure medication needed to be used. I'm tired of all this nonsense. I'm not defending any. This is ridiculousness at its worst. There's a show called Ridiculousness, I think, on TV. Right?
There is. It's a great show.
I know. My sister-in-law Denise
hadn't watched it in a long time.
Bottom line is this deal with quarterbacks is nonsense. I'm not going to get upset about it any longer. I'm just going to buy into it and say, you're right, Field. If a young quarterback in his 12th start isn't playing really good football, let's go to the next best thing coming out of college, which isn't against the, what do you call them? AOGs, another occupation, guys, for those who don't know. So if you want to go with the guys that are playing against AOGs over guys who are not getting it done at a high level in the NFL, but they have talent and they want.
He has, I mean, it's not a bad argument. That's why I do think it's a little hasty to say let's bench Will Levis now. See it through to the end of the season and see where we are then. Because what if you give him this year and he starts playing better? I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying what if? If you bench him now, you'll never know. Newsflash, guys. Mason Rudolph ain't taking this team to a Super Bowl. Okay? I know it's hard for some of you to believe. Mason Rudolph is not taking this team to the Super Bowl, and probably I would be shocked if he even took him to the playoffs at all. So you got to see, you've invested all this, you got to see what you have, so that at the end you can make a clear decision either way.
Want to be great, but they're young and they're not doing it yet, so we're going to kick them to the. Let's do it. I'm with you. I'm all on board now to just get them out of here if they're not playing at a high level in year 1 or year 2. Get them out of here. I'm with you.
He's so mad. He's so angry about it. I mean, it's not the argument people want to hear because we are in an age of instant gratification, especially when it comes to our football teams that we love. We want to see them win. We just want to see them win. We want to see them, succeed. We want to be able to rejoice in a victory. And it's tough when we're not seeing that on the field. And yes, he's going to have to start playing better. He's going to have to start winning if he wants to be around next year. But, for right now, I think I somewhat agree with Mel that you got to keep him in. You got to keep him in. It's too, pulling the plug now be too hasty. And we can compare him to Bryce Young. But Bryce Young was playing a lot worse than Will Levis. I will also say that. Bryce Young was playing a lot worse than Will Levis is. And also, there is some good to take away from Levis's performances. So Brian Callahan and company are going to have to see if they could tap in to the good more than the bad. Because through 3 weeks, we've seen a good bit of both. I don't know, man. What do you guys think?